Hey everyone, Pastor Peter here. Hope you're doing okay today. Today we are in Joshua chapter 17. Joshua chapter 17. So let's read together in Joshua chapter 17. This is what it says. The next allotment of land was given to the half-tribe of Manasseh, the descendants of Joseph's older son. Machir, the firstborn son of Manasseh, was the father of Gilead because his descendants were experienced soldiers. The region of Gilead and Bashan on the east side of the Jordan had already been given to them. So the allotment on the west side of the Jordan was for the remaining families with the clans of the tribes of Manasseh: Abizir, Helek, Asriel, Shechem, Hepher, and Shemediah. These clans represent the male descendants of Manasseh, son of Joseph. However, Zelophehad, a descendant of Hepher, son of Gilead, son of Machir, son of Manasseh, had no sons. He only had daughters, whose names were Mahlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah. These women came from Eleazar the priest, Joshua son of Nun, and the Israelite leaders, and said, "The Lord commanded Moses to give us a grant of land along with the men of our tribe." So Joshua gave them a grant of land along with their uncles, as the Lord had commanded. As a result, Manasseh's total allocation came to 10 parcels of land, in addition to the land of Gilead and Bashan across the Jordan River. Because the female descendants of Manasseh received a grant of land along with the male descendants, the land of Gilead was given to the rest of the male descendants of Manasseh. The boundary of the tribe of Manasseh extended from the border of Asher to Mikmethath near Shechem. Then the boundary went south from Mikmethath to the settlement near the spring of Tappuah. The land surrounding Tappuah belonged to Manasseh, but the town of Tappuah itself, on the border of Manasseh's territory, belonged to the tribe of Ephraim. From the spring of Tappuah and the boundary of Manasseh followed the Cana ravine to the Mediterranean Sea. Several towns of the ravine were inside Manasseh's territory, but they actually belonged to the tribe of Ephraim. In general, however, the land south of the ravine belonged to Ephraim, and the land north of the ravine belonged to Manasseh. Manasseh's boundary ran along the northern side of the ravine and ended at the Mediterranean Sea. North of Manasseh was the territory of Asher, and to the east was the territory of Issachar. The following towns within the territory of Issachar and Asher, however, were given to Manasseh: Bethshan, Ibleam, Dor, that is Naphdor, Endor, Taanach, and Megiddo, each with their surrounding settlements. But the descendants of Manasseh were unable to occupy these towns because the Canaanites were determined to stay in that region. Later, however, the Israelites became strong enough. They forced the Canaanites to work as slaves, but they did not drive them out of the land. The descendants of Joseph came to Joshua and asked, "Why have you given us only one portion of land as our homeland, when the Lord has blessed us with so many people?" Joshua replied, "If there are so many of you, and if the hill country of Ephraim is not large enough for you, clear out land for yourselves in the forest where the Pezerites and the Rephaites live." The descendants of Joseph responded, "It's true that the hill country is not large enough for us, but all the Canaanites in the lowlands have iron chariots, both those in Bethshan and its surrounding settlements and those in the valley of Jezreel. They are too strong for us." Then Joshua said to the tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh, the descendants of Joseph, "Since you are so large and strong, you will be given more than one portion. The forest of the hill country will be yours as well. Clear as much of the land as you wish and take possession of its furthest corner, and you will drive out the Canaanites from the valleys too, even though they are strong and have iron chariots." This is a simple chapter talking about land disputes and what people think they deserve and what really was going on. But again, it goes back to the situation that was going on right there. You know, the Israelites were called to drive away the Canaanites at the very beginning. They were supposed to do that at the start, but they didn't. And again, when sin is in our life too, when something is supposed to be driven out and yet we keep it remaining with us, what ends up happening is it slowly comes back to haunt us at the very end. And the thing for us as well as we can learn from this is when we don't follow what God has called us to do and eradicate the things that He tells us to eradicate in our lives, whether it's thoughts, whether it's action. And here's the thing too, I think I learned this from someone, forgot who it was from, but it says, a thought yields an action yields a habit yields a lifestyle, and a lifestyle yields a destiny. And the same thing goes for us when it comes to the influences that we have in our life. And I think that's really important for us to really see what are the things that influence us. And if those things are good, great. But if those things are not good, and it's something that God has told us that we should not continue to entertain, and yet we still do, what ends up happening is these things will dig in. The Canaanites, they dug in. They said, hey, we're not going to take it anymore. We're not going to leave. We're strong. And sometimes the things in our life too, they become so strong that we can't eradicate them. You know, it reminds me of like termites. You know, if you leave it running, they're these little small, I don't know if they're called insects, but they eat wood, right? And if you keep them in your house and you don't do anything about them, what ends up happening is they'll eat and they'll rot through your house, and your structure will no longer be sound. And unless we eradicate them, we wipe them out, we kill them, we do something proactive about them. And that's a key term, I think, here is the word proactive versus reactive. Sometimes we wait for things to happen and then we respond to it, versus knowing that if we don't take certain actions, some things will take over. Some things will happen. And the same thing goes with here as well as our lives too. I mean, I jumped straight into it, but you know, there are things that we don't need in our lives. There are things that are burdens for us, or things that don't really matter. Those things, we may not think that they're harmful, but as we go along in life, they're dead weight that we carry. And whatever isn't necessarily harmful can become harmful if it prevents us from living up to the fullest potential God has for us. And when we think about it, when we think of it in those terms, those pretty much are things that are holding us back from living the life that God's called us to live. Whether it is sin in our life, very clear, specific, wipe these things out. Or it's just something that just weighs us down. And every day we just carry more and more and more. And then it prevents us from actually reaching that level that God wants us to get to. And that's what I see here with the Canaanites, or with the Israelites. They have God's promise, but there are things that are holding them back from really reaching their full potential. And so that's something for us to analyze and think about too in our lives too. What's holding us back? And sometimes these are the things that God's placed in our life for us to deal with and contend with, fine. But what are the things that we just pile on top and carry this weight around us for no reason at all? You know, not too long ago, well, I guess it was long ago, when I was in college, one of the things we did was, I was a music major, so we had class outside from time to time. And one of the things we did was we analyzed the sound of nature, the noise, the pollution, noise pollution that was around us. And where I was, it wasn't that much pollution. But we were outside, and it was kind of this new area that the school was starting to construct on, so it was clear. And being the ADD kid in my class, I was sitting there trying not to lose my attention. And I was grabbing rocks that were around me, and I would toss it in the purse. You know, those bucket purses that these girls would have? Just as a prank, as one of the annoying sopranos in my class. And I remember me and my friend, we were doing this in class, and, you know, just having fun. And then at the end of class, she was like, man, what's so heavy in my bag? And then she would walk back to her room and realize, what the heck? Who threw rocks in my bag? You know, it's the same thing that Satan does for us too. You know, don't think that it's sin in our lives that will weigh us down. But it's sometimes just empty, stupid things that people throw in our way, or Satan throws in our way, that weighs us down and prevents us from really being able to do things. That's why it's important for us to spend some time to reflect. You know, I've been doing this for a while, and I'm going back to doing it again. And this is my journal that I have. I'm starting to write down my daily routines, my thoughts, planning ahead of time, and kind of streamlining things, not on my phone necessarily, because phones are distracting. But then with a notebook, I'm using the bullet journal method, which I've been using on and off for several years now, and it's really good too. It works very well, very efficient. But hopefully it'll allow me to get back to the root of things. What are the things that I need to do? Keeping track of my time keeping track of my thoughts, keeping track of what really is driving me, and reflecting at the end of the day to see what really did drive my day. Waking up early is one of those things that is a hard practice now and a discipline during this pandemic, because we're just like, whatever. If I don't have to get up, I won't get up. But what would it look like if we took our days back and used that time to reflect and eradicate anything in our lives that are weighing us down? Whether it is a sin in our life, or whether it's just the empty, redundant waste of time of things that we do, and that it just sits in there, and then next thing you know, it takes a stronghold of us, and we can't get rid of it, like these bad tenants called the Canaanites in here. So my friends, as we reflect on this today, and as we go through our lives, what would it take for you to spend 5, 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes to reflect on your day? What would it take for you to look and to analyze what things are holding you back? And what would it take for you and for me to spend maybe a Saturday or maybe a Sunday after church to go through the things that weigh us down and say, you know what, enough is enough. It's time for me to get rid of it. It's time for me to eradicate the things that weigh me down. And sometimes it's just those empty, stupid rocks that some guy or moron like me threw your way, and it ended up in your bag, and you're just carrying it and you don't even realize. So my friends, reflect on these things. What has God called you to? What's holding you back? And why aren't you doing anything about it? Have a great day, everyone. Recording from home. We'll see you tomorrow.